Welcome again to Trials, Tribulations and Tea, and the story of James Canham Read, bigamist, liar and murderer. On this channel I share crimes, disasters, etc. Viewer discretion is advised, and be aware that some content reflects the attitudes of the time. My cuppa today is what the Brits call builder's tea. Black tea with milk, strong enough to stand a spoon up in. Settle down with your favourite brew and join me for the sad story of the Prittlewell murder and too many lies to count. On Monday the 25th of June 1884, and in the sleepy village of Prittlewell, just a mile from Southend on Sea Essex, the body of a young woman was found by local lad Frederick Rush. The pretty young lady was fully clothed and shot once through the head. The body was that of Florence Dennis, single, 23 years of age and heavily pregnant. She had been residing with her sister, Mrs. Bertha Aris, and it was Bertha who was called to identify the body. Immediately, Bertha laid the blame for the murder on James Canham Read, whom she said was father to the unborn child of Florence and also father to one of her own children. Now begins the extraordinary story of bigamist and compulsive liar James Read. James Read was born in 1855 to a loving Christian family, and as a young lad he was choir boy at St Mary's Chapel of Ease, Shadwell, rebuilt in 1880. But his belief in God waned and he became an agnostic, which his parents believed was the start of all of his troubles. At the time of the murder, Read worked as a cashier at the Royal Albert Dock and lived in Jamaica Street in Stepney. He earned £140 per annum, which at the time was a very good wage. And he was legally married to Emma Sarah Payne, with whom he had 8 children. Bertha Aris, his mistress, was married to husband John and had 4 children, and they resided in Wesley Road, Southend. Bertha had 2 sisters, Florence, who was 18 at the time, and also Evelina, 14 years old. James Read met Bertha Aris on Southend Pier. Strangely, both were using false names. He as Mr. Talbot, and he knew her as Mrs. Neville. They commenced an affair and had a child in 1882. It was in 1890 that Read met Florence, at first explaining himself as a friend of Bertha's, but then he commenced to seduce her also, which caused Bertha to cease her affair with him. Florence discovered she was pregnant by Read in 1893. Read wasn't happy about this at all, seeing as he also had another wife, Beatrix Kempton, who had a 6-month-old child by him, and Beatrix knew him as a travelling salesman called Edgar Benson. James Read and his brother Harry Read, colluded to weave a web of lies to cover these wives. They claimed they had a sister, totally fictitious, who lived in Canterbury, married to the fictitious Walter Parker, who apparently often needed their help, and this explained James' long absences from home or homes. Once Florence told her mother of the pregnancy, her mother Emma Dennis sent Florence to live with her sister Bertha in Southend. On the weekend 23rd, 24th of June, Read had told Beatrice that he would be absent all weekend as he needed to visit the fictitious Walter Palmer in Canterbury. On Saturday the 23rd of June, Florence received a telegram from Charing Cross Station asking her to meet Read at the Great Eastern Station in Southend at 9:30 p.m. on the Saturday night. She was obviously hoping that he would settle their future together along with her unborn child, as she was now 8 months pregnant. We do not know what occurred during that meeting, but they arranged to meet again on the Sunday at Prittlewell. James travelled there by train. They were seen walking together just after 10 p.m. by local Robert Douthwaite. The murder looks to have occurred at 10:15, as Read was seen alone at 10:30 by a local Robert Goulding. At 9:20 a.m. the next morning, he went to the house of Mr. Scannell, an old colleague. This was used as an excuse for arriving at his office in the docks at 10 instead of the expected 9 a.m. As Florence had not returned home, during that day Bertha sent a telegram to his office asking, "Where is Florrie?" He responded saying he'd not seen her for 18 months, a massive lie, seeing as she was 8 months pregnant. Read knew he was in trouble and fled, having stolen £160 from his employer. He took himself to his second wife Beatrix and their young son at Rose Cottage, Mitcham in Surrey. He asked his brother Harry to cover his tracks. Southend police, led by Sergeant Alfred John Marden and Inspector Baker, were now on a hunt and printed wanted posters on the 26th of June to find their man. They watched the brother Harry's house and intercepted a letter written by him to James at Rose Cottage. The game was up. They confronted James at Rose Cottage, who insisted he was Mr. Benson, showing them his marriage certificate, which was clearly forged. As they left the property with James in handcuffs, his brother Harry appeared, which only confirmed James' real identity. If you're wondering about the murder weapon, it was never found, but James had taken a pistol away from his brother Harry, supposedly to keep Harry out of trouble. James was charged with the murder and also theft and imprisoned at Springfield Jail in Chelmsford on the 30th of July 1894. He pled not guilty to the murder, but guilty to the theft. The murder trial began on the 12th of November at Essex Assizes in the Shire Hall. The defence team had a hard job on their hands, claiming that Read had actually been with a further lover on the weekend of the 23rd, 24th of June, and that either Mrs. Harris killed Florence or that a soldier in Hounslow Barracks had got her pregnant and killed her. No evidence was put forward, which is not surprising. The defence also pointed out the coroner's evidence that Florence died at approximately 1 a.m, but sadly it was most likely that the shot did not kill her outright and her death was lingering. The prosecution proved that numerous telegrams purported to be sent by James had in fact been written by his brother Harry in a distinctive purple pencil that he always carried. Harry also admitted deceiving poor Beatrix and confirmed that no such person existed as Walter Palmer of Canterbury. James claimed originally that he was 50 miles away at the time of the murder with this other lover. Then he changed his statement and said he was with Bertha Harris on the Sunday evening walking about Southend. She adamantly refuted this in a letter to the press. Mrs. Harris says, "But first he failed to say where he was. Now in his position he accounts for himself on that dreadful night. Among other things, he accounted for himself on the Sunday night. And this is what he says. I did send those telegrams I denied sending, but they were sent to Mrs. Harris and not to Florence Dennis. And it was Mrs. Harris I was out with on the Sunday night, walking about with her in Southend. This is the plea upon which he tried to save his life. Was anything ever more absurd? If the petition is published, the public will see." Needless to say, James was found guilty of the murder and sentenced to hang on June the 24th. The summation took 80 minutes, but the jury retired at 12:50, returned at 1:30 p.m, taking only 40 minutes. The press reported on the execution thus: "The culprit, who slept well during the night, took his breakfast as usual. Afterwards he sent for the doctor, who in reply to his questions assured him that death would be instantaneous and that he would feel nothing. Before leaving the cell for the scaffold, he thanked the governor and officials for their kindness. He walked with a firm step to the gallows, and his last words, they said, have been uttered in a whisper to the executioner, 'Button my coat.' Read was given a drop of 7 foot 8 inches and death was instantaneous. In May 1896, James' brother Harry Read was found dead, having committed suicide by jumping into the Regent's Canal. The press again reported, "The painful event is not without its element of sadness. Ever since the execution of James Canham Read, his brother has not only been the subject of scorn and ridicule in the neighbourhood, but his relationship with the executed man has prevented him obtaining permanent employment." A friend of Harry's, the landlord of the Two Brewers public house, Mystery Ghost, relayed conversations had with Harry. Some short time ago, Harry told a man named Pat Fitz, who happened to be in the house, that he did not care if he was dead, indeed he would be so soon. Mr. Ghost never heard him utter direct threats of committing suicide, but spoke of how intensely morbid he became when remarks referring to his brother's crime were made in the house in his hearing. It was only a few nights ago that he was in the house when 2 females entered and began in a low tone to refer to the Southend crime, pointing to Harry Read. When they left, he said to Mr. Ghost, "What were those women talking about?" "I did not pay any attention to them," was the reply of the landlord. "But I know," Read said in a desponding tone. "Do you know," he continued, "I would not care if I was killed or drowned. I seem to be in everybody's way." One wonders whether Harry was sucked into his brother's scheming and couldn't see a way out. This tale just goes to show, oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive. If you have enjoyed this True Life Tales, do subscribe and hit the notification button, and I'll be back with more True Life Tales.